Welcome to the 3030 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Dr. Ruiz.
Hello everyone, super excited about my guest today. My guest today is Kyle Brown. Kyle is the CEO and creator of Fit 365, an all-natural delicious gourmet meal in a shake. Kyle hosted the ESPN Radio show The Empower Hour with Kyle Brown. Kyle was a national finalist in 2013 and 2015 for Trainer of the Year and voted San Diego's Best Personal Trainer 2010 and 2011. In his first book entitled How Much Does a Zebra Weigh?, Kyle empowers you to build self-confidence through sound mind in a healthy, strong body. Also, I was invited to present at the Take Back Your Hormones conference with Dr. Jolene Bryden. This weekend only, you can watch the whole series, so click on the link on this post to reserve your spot. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello everyone, super excited to be here with my friend Kyle Brown. Kyle, how's it going, man?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Dude, so many questions, because we know that protein is such an important part of a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet. And we understand that we need to have good levels of protein. You have a lot of experience with that topic. And so I wanted to have you here. But before we start, what's your hero story? How did you go from, a civilian to being, at the forefront when it comes to this type of formulations?
Well, I definitely don't think I was ever truly a civilian. I never really fit into civilian attire. I always beat to a different drummer from the moment I was born and was really into being more the exception to the rule. We'll call it on the physical plane of fitness, nutrition, the mental stuff, the personal development stuff. My before picture, if you will, was me at 6 years old. So that's when I really got into this stuff. I started lifting weights way back then. Had the old sand weights in my basement back in the 80s. Bodybuilding book was the first book I ever read. Franco Columbo, who just passed, rest in peace. His winning bodybuilding book was the first book I recall reading. And pictures of girls on the walls to motivate me. Van Halen playing. Tony Robbins on tape. Straight up tape. This is before the CD, then before the
social media and
before all this stuff. So I was into this stuff very, very early. Professionally, I got into it 2001, and then I've always had a good mix of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual side from the beginning. Really tapping into all the intuition and really understanding the depths of what the word holistic really means.
I started listening to podcasts a little bit, around 2008, and same thing, I had a basement in Florida, which is like so strange, and I started my a gym, and and I would have people come over, and we would train together and talk about the paleo thing, and little by little, I realized that I always wanted to be a doctor, and that's I was like, I need to do it, and that's how we're talking to each other right now.
I love it.
So one of the catchphrases of my podcast is that I ask the stupid questions so no one else has to. Why is protein so important?
The brilliance of that statement coming from a doctor. I love it. I love it. If only the mainstream average doctor would be willing to step away from ego and be a lifelong student, we'd be in such a better place. So why is protein so important? So protein is really the building blocks of every single cell in your body. We think that protein is just take more protein, gives you muscles, protein. But male, female, young, old, it doesn't matter. There are essential nutrients that your body needs to not only survive, but to rebuild, repair, replace every single cell in your body. And I always say the worst thing you can say to somebody at a high school reunion is you didn't change one bit.
Yeah.
And if you think about protein's role, it's really to help you change and become a completely different version of yourself all the time. And it's all about the quality. because it's not what you digest, it's what you absorb and utilize that counts.
And protein not only, it does build muscle, but it's also like a cytokine. So it's a signal, it's a building block, it's a transmitter, it's everything, is protein. And then we have essential proteins that we can't make, and they're called essential because we have to get them exogenously. So why? Why do we need to, supplement with protein, or why do we need to eat all this protein? And then I guess the why is because we can't make it. But the big question is how much protein is needed. Do you have like a nice number? I've heard 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I've heard things like 0.8. Where do you think it's like the optimal level of protein intake that a human should be striving for?
So great question. And I have a very different answer than the mainstream answer. I focus on being a qualitarian. And what that basically means is I want you to imagine that you were a Martian looking down at this beautiful, living, breathing ecosystem of humanity, fitting its little role in, and realizing that we are like any other animal in the animal kingdom. And there is not one other animal in the animal kingdom that has a weight problem, that has an anti-optimal problem, yet there's only one quantitative analysis animal in the planet that uses numbers over quality, and that pulls out digital scales.
And scoops.
I have never seen a line pull out a macronutrient chart or a calculator before it eats. So for me, I think the beauty is you can utilize the benefits of math, but it is not at the foundation. I do like keeping people roughly gram per pound of body weight, but I really think the optimal numbers for people with protein is how much can you get access to in nature on a regular basis. And we don't wake up next to a refrigerator, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, given that, if you focus on the highest bioavailable and what's been proven to be the highest absorption and highest usable protein on the planet as your main protein sources, then you're good to go. Because the worst comes to worst, you don't need to be sitting down unless your dietary choice is something like a carnivore dietary choice. But you don't really need, in order to thrive, to be downing 5-10 pounds of meat in a day.
Yeah, and that becomes important because you could be quantifying protein as a category and eat suboptimal sources of protein that count towards that protein goal, but are not going to be utilized in the same way, because not all proteins are created equal, and they don't, assimilate equally.
Precisely. So, for example, people will look at protein sources from beans or rice, or they'll see, hey, my peanut butter has a lot of protein in it. And they'll look at the back of the chart for grams of protein. And the thing is, those are incomplete proteins, usually from poor protein sources, that if you're just looking at it as an exchange of food, like as a unit of food, it would probably fit under a category of either dietary fat or of starch for most of those things.
Yeah, so it's really funny because one of my patients brought me like a tin of really high quality almonds, and the lid said a good source of protein. And then you look at the back and it was 10 grams of protein for, I think it was half a tin, which equaled around 1,000 calories.
Yes.
So 10 grams of protein for 1,000 calories. And within that, you have a bunch of, extra things, that might not be super bad, but you have to account into a healthy diet, like sodium and saturated fats, and it makes no sense that this claim as a quote unquote good source of protein is made on this food product, because in reality, the return of investment of 1,000 calories for 10 grams of protein is not that high.
So the FDA has a very interesting loophole that most people aren't aware of. And I'll show you a different example than protein for it. But the loophole is any company who manufactures a product can create whatever serving size they want to be a serving of the product. So I'll give you an example of that. I could say one serving size equals 15 scoops of protein shake and say it's got, 74 grams of protein per serving. And I can do that legally. It's really kind of messed up. Where companies do it in a very fascinating way is Splenda being called a zero-calorie sweetener. It's because the serving size of the packet is under 1 gram total net weight. And because the main ingredient in there is dextrose, which is sugar, and then just a tiny little sprinkle of that artificial sweetener. But because they keep the serving size under 1 gram, they're able to say a calorie-free sweetener made from sugar. It's very, very deceptive.
Wow.
And it's just like your situation where you say, yes, you got 10 grams of protein, eat 1,000 calorie half tin. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because someone that is maybe not educated, might think, okay, well, I need 10 more grams of protein, so I guess I'll eat half a can of almonds, and now you're over your total calorie. You're not getting an optimal source of protein, and then you're wondering, why am I not losing weight?
Yes, and the great rule of thumb in that case that can simplify it to the nth degree is to always eat food in quantities you can get access to in nature. So if you were to take those nuts and seeds and you were to get them out in nature, they would have protective shells around them to keep them from oxidizing. So the amount of time it would take you in nature to crack through a walnut, for example, let alone 50 walnuts you can get from a trough at Whole Foods, would be somewhere in the realm of about 3 hours.
And that's discounting the roasting, that's discounting the spices and the flavorings. So anytime you add complexity to something, it makes it taste better.
Exactly. Just look at the process of your coffee when it comes to your house. If you understood everything it had to go through to get to your house, you'd be like, whoa, I'm lazy.
Yeah.
All I had to do was press the on button and be impatient for 10 minutes.
So, okay, what brought you into this world of creating this protein shakes and protein? What was the problem that you identified, and what was your thought process in, because you can't get protein shakes in nature?
So I've been in the paleo world for about 17 going on 18 years now. I read Cordain's book back in the day, The Paleo Diet, said, this is awesome. I called him back up. I'd already been a certified clinical nutritionist for a long time, said, I don't want to go back to school, but what should I read? And took off from there. And what I noticed, I was working as a trainer for celebrities, pro athletes, rock stars, rap stars, that world. And I was realizing that these busy on-the-go people, the last thing that they had time to do post-workout was to go and, hunt down a buffalo and find a way to grill it up and take 2 hours to prep a, good post-workout recovery shake. And I'd been a competitive bodybuilder before, and I realized when I was in clinical nutrition school that the quality of the ingredients that we had been sold on through all the marketing messages was just crap. I had a cousin who was manufacturing products back at the time of vitamins, and I was able to see like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain and see that everything was a bunch of marketing. So what I did was I took from 2003 to 2005. I was very early in the game. And I put together what would be something that would, one, taste like you're cheating on your diet, and two, be so healthy that I could feed it to little kids. And that was my original goal. And when I looked at that goal, I said, okay, I want to combine the greatest ingredients from around the world. And as we did that, we searched around and we put things in this product that others had never heard of, and now are sold as separate ingredients on shelves like Himalayan pink salt, right? In 2005, when we launched, nobody knew what pink salt was, and now it's got its own shelf at Whole Foods. And on the taste side, I will tell you the one thing, little kids will lie about absolutely everything except for taste.
Yeah.
It is the one thing they'll be brutally honest on. So we've always had kids in that demo group. And I really just saw, to come back to your question, I saw that big business and people getting into this, they typically would go to these contract manufacturers and say, hey, I want you to make a product that has X number of grams of protein, X number of grams of carbs, X number of grams of fat, has about this many calories. And nowadays, all they do is they just take their house blends and slap a private label on it and call themselves a formulator. It's a joke. It's just whoever's the best digital marketer wins. And what they did is they'd go to these contractors and they really didn't care about the quality of protein. So even now you'll see proteins that'll say whey protein, and the first ingredient is milk protein isolate, which is a really inexpensive ingredient. Or they'll say time-released protein, which basically means they want to mix it up with some really inexpensive ingredients and try to push the fact that, oh, this stuff digests at different paces. And I got to see behind that curtain, and that's why I knew that we needed to put something out there that, worst comes to worst, if the business totally fails, I've got something I can feed my family for the rest of my life.
And taste is so important, specifically when it comes to people that are trying to put on weight or they're trying to gain muscle. And you know, if anyone listening has ever tried to do something like, you know, old school lean gains or like, you know, where you know, at the end of the day you're like looking at your macros and you're like, oh my goodness, I need 20 more grams of protein, and the last thing you want to do is eat anything. So at least if it tastes pretty darn good, you can at least, you know, finish the day and hit your goals.
Exactly. I remember when I went through that journey. And I got up to 223, which I had started at about 175, by the way. I was doing 7,000 clean calories a day. And I don't know if you've ever eaten 7,000 calories a day. It's a pretty easy thing to do if you hang out at McDonald's.
Yep.
It's a pretty hard thing to do when you eat 1,000 calorie a day meals that are all clean.
Because of the volume, and then you don't have a lot of like the intricate salty, sweet, umami flavors, you know, because you're just basically grilling some chicken and some boiled broccoli or something like that. So it gets really monotonous and there's a lot of volume.
And if you're married, your wife thinks you're having an affair with George Foreman. So it's definitely one of those things where you're loaded up, and most likely at that point, your digestion probably sucks too. So you're not going to be a fun date, let's just say.
Yeah, no, I remember, you know, when the intermittent fasting was rolling around, and I remember, you know, days where I was looking at my macros at the end of the day, and I had a freezer full of frozen berries because that's like a high carb, low fat, low protein. And then I had fat-free cottage cheese, which is high protein, low fat, low carb, and then coconut oil. And I would just like make this bowl of coconut oil with frozen strawberries and cottage cheese to fill in my macros. Because if you miss that meal, if you don't hit, next time you go lift, you might not hit your goals. So it's like so dependent on your fueling. So, you know, it would have been really nice to have something, you know, like a high quality protein shake where you can hit those proteins in a palatable way.
And that's everything. And I really think that taste is universal for sustained results. If you actually want to do something to hit a goal and stay there, right, you need to make sure you're enjoying the process and that the food you put in your body works. I always joke that most people I meet have really, really healthy cabinets full of stuff that may be healthy but tastes like crap. So you open up their cabinet, they're like, oh, this is great. I'm like, have you opened it once? It sucks.
Now, you touched on the digestion of all these proteins. You know, you said, you know, it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. So at some point, the absorbability of this protein is very important.
It's foundational. If not, you either have expensive pee or expensive poo. And either way, what a waste of money, right? That's like buying plane tickets to Hawaii and going, nah, I just wanted to buy the tickets to Hawaii. I don't really want to actually go to Maui. So it blows my mind how many people don't understand that you need to have things like digestive enzymes in there. And you need to make sure that you're taking the probiotics for the gut health. And you need to make sure that the quality of what you're putting in, when they did the testing on grass-fed whey, which is why we use a very specific grass-fed whey that's not a byproduct of cheese manufacture because all its immune benefits. When they did the testing on grass-fed whey and they saw the usability, the bioavailability was this new standard score. They called it 170 out of 100, which I always joke 170 out of 100 is not so it became the new 100, and then they had egg move down to 93 from 100, then meat, and then it worked its way down. And when they said basically every gram you're taking in of this particular protein is being used for rebuilding, repairing, replacing every cell in your body, well, I would say that sounds like a good investment. If you equate it to business and you have a financial planner who's doubling your money on every dollar you put in, you're going to stick with that financial planner. So to me, it's all about what is the best stuff that I could possibly utilize so that I'm getting the best ROI on it.
And with that, it's pretty clear that when it comes to protein, protein shakes, like whey is pretty much king. Very well absorbed, good amino acid profile. We were just talking about amino acid profiles before we started this conversation. Any concerns with dietary restrictions or food allergies? How do you get around that?
Yeah, so first off, not all whey protein is the same. That's one place where people really mess up, is that you are what you eats. That's the first piece. So man eats cow, cow eats grass. You get a completely different experience eating grass-fed beef that is year-round pasture-raised than you get eating, corn-fed cows from a slaughterhouse. So there's so much involved, everything down to the hormones that are in that animal. But then on that same note, it's the same thing with whey. So not all wheys are the same is the first thing that I'll say. Most whey protein, people don't even know where it comes from. They think it comes from a whey tree. And they say, oh, well, there's the old Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating her curds and whey. Well, the curds and whey were basically in cheese manufacture. They would milk a cow and they would get the whey, and then they would get the cream that rose to the top, or the milk and the cream that rose to the top. And the byproduct of that, when they would then high heat pasteurize it, cheese would be the product they'd use. The byproduct would be whey. And that whey used to be thrown away. And then in the 1990s, they started testing it. However, if you go back to the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, the guy who said, let thy food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food, which most listeners probably have heard of that statement before. He used to use more like a raw whey in all of his formulas because of all of its benefits and immune benefits, and it didn't have all those digestive problems that most people are having with whey protein. That's the kind of whey that we use. We use whey from South Australian cows, meaning it's year-round warm. It's super sunny in South Australia most of the year. Unlike, you'll see these organic wheys that are American that are all from Wisconsin, where they're eating grains and soy most of the year, and then they're finishing them with some grass and saying, hey, organic, grass-fed, which is just crap. And they then process it, so it's a process of the curds and whey. But what we utilize is you milk the cow, you get the milk, you get the cream, and there's a thin layer of whey that just naturally sits on top of that milk and cream, and it's about as close to the immune regenerative benefits of raw milk that you can get, and that's all we use, which is why it's creme de la creme, right? It's the cream of the crop. It's the best of the best of a raw ingredient. And people say, well, why wouldn't everybody use that? And just, it's like anything else in life. Chase the money, right? If you trace the money trail, that stuff is very expensive to manufacture. So people are going to do exactly what we started this conversation with, which is say, how many grams of protein? Oh, I don't need that. I'm just going to have peanut butter for an extra 5 grams. And the results are as such.
And, I did mention, one of the things that people in the paleo community have asked me, and the reason that this could be controversial is because, we don't have whey protein or protein shakes in the wild, or our ancestors didn't, but we do have technology. And at some point, technology should be utilized for our benefit. The saying is, we're the only animal that drinks another mammal's milk. And I like to say we're the only mammal that wears pants. So should we not wear pants?
So I have a good response to the paleo thing. And if you're listening at home right now, I want you to put up your hand if you are 100% paleo. And if you use toilet paper today, you need to put your hand down because you're now not 100% paleo. If you have air conditioning, you're now not 100% paleo. If you cooked your food on a stove, you're now not 100% paleo. And I did try raw food omnivore before, and that was really rough. And I'm going to tell you that if you're eating chicken in little cubes, you're not 100% paleo. So unless you had some saber-tooth tiger for breakfast after you hunted it this morning, you aren't paleo. And I got to say, I am thrilled that I'm not 100% paleo, and that the only thing I had to worry about hunting me, this morning is some cougars over at Whole Foods while I was getting my almond milk. And if they catch me, I might just be in trouble with my wife, but I won't be dead. So we're good to go. So you have to really make things fit in your 21st century on-the-go lifestyle and separate yourself from extremism in religion and extremism in food religion, which is the religion of 2019, where if you don't get the word paleo tattooed on your chest, you're not truly paleo.
Dude, you're talking about 2017 because now 2019 paleo started to become toxic. So
exactly.
Yeah, so now it's keto.
Now it's keto or vegan or whatever else we're going to jump to, and the trends move as fast as people's Instagrams move, which is hilarious. So I'm going to say I'll take the years of human evolution over what changed in literally 2 years. So it is comedy. And I'll tell you this, if you actually cannot process our whey, which a lot of people who can't process commercialized whey do really well on our stuff, then there are other proteins out there that do very well for you. But where people make big mistakes is they don't make sure that they're using a protein that was designed for its amino acid profile. So they'll say, I'm trying to build muscle, and why is this collagen protein shake I'm drinking not working? And it's like, because collagen has a very separate, different purpose than muscle building. And most of these plant-based proteins that you're getting out there are not going to give you a Schwarzenegger-like body. And I will be the first to tell you that you're going to see a lot of 100% vegan bodybuilders out there who are 100% vegan now, way after they built their foundations, and in most cases with anabolics. So they've built that foundation, and when they're saying they're 100% vegan, I would say follow them around 24/7, 365 with a hidden camera and see how many of them are truly behind the scenes what they're saying they are.
Let's dig into the collagen. So it's a tool that we can use, and there are specific tissues in our body, the whole saying of nose to tail. We are not just protein. We have bones and we have minerals, and that's not coming from protein. And then we have other types of proteins like proline, like glycine, but that's not exactly the protein that is going to build muscle. What's the difference, or where would you utilize a collagen product versus a whey product versus all of the different types of protein that you're developing?
So we personally as a company are working to address that issue because we find that there's definitely a big hole in the market right now. The big push for proteins right now are either plant-based or they're collagen-based. Collagen is as hot as it comes. And people are replacing their whey shakes that they think is bad for them because there's a lot of marketing and media stuff going on about it. Or they're replacing their soy shakes, which they do need to replace, so that's great. Or they're just buying into the idea that collagen is good for your skin, so they think that that should be their entire meal protein. And where they're making the mistake is that collagen has its purpose, but it doesn't have the purpose of muscle building or cell rebuilding. So what we're doing right now is we're working on a combination of a collagen egg version. And egg protein is a fantastic protein source unless you specifically have an egg allergy or are adverse to eggs. And there are always other sources. And if you're going to do a collagen, make sure you're doing a multi-collagen, not just one collagen source. So you're getting that full profile. And you want to make sure, again, then that is not your protein you're having for building muscle. Simple as that you're utilizing it for its other benefit. I do think egg is a fantastic protein source as well. We've been eating them for a very, very long time. In nature, if you come across eggs, you won't look at them and say, oh, that isn't paleo. It just doesn't make sense to me that if you're out there and you're hunting and foraging out through nature, you would look at an egg and go, nah. And then if you're going to be following a plant-based protein style diet, which is the other giant fad, you can do that right if that is your choice, but you need to be really, really diligent. I tried doing the whole plant-based lifestyle when I was part of the Green Environmental Club in high school. But for me, that meant driving to Taco Bell a little bit stoned and getting a 7-layer burrito, which I didn't realize wasn't vegan, having to be cheese. And I would do that during lunch every day. And I was like, oh, my stomach kills from being a vegan. And I wasn't even a vegan at the time. And I got to tell you, you really, really need to do your homework and do it right. And I can appreciate and value anybody's choice that they make. You just need to be highly educated and do it all based on quality and completeness. That's the key.
Well, and it's funny, that you mentioned the vegan. Sometimes I think that our first foray into this, most of the people that I've talked to in my show, at one point, they were either vegetarian or vegan. And it's because it's so easy to continue eating pizza and donuts and burritos because they're just vegan burritos, vegan pizza, and it's an easy transition thinking that, and no disrespect or anything, you are doing it not because it's a fad, but you're trying to be healthier for yourself. So you start investigating different options, and there are so many rules within the paleo. There are so many rules, within like a healthy eating. And in the end, it's like, well, maybe that it's so black and white from standard American diet to vegan that it's a very easy choice while still maintaining your bad habits.
Yes, it is the easiest transition from the standard American diet. And if you're benchmarking the standard American diet to what we'll call mainstream vegan, if that makes sense, then yeah, that's the easiest thing. It's like, I'm still eating crap food, but hey, it's gluten-free and vegan. It's like, yo, you just had a piece of cake for lunch. I don't care if it's vegan. I don't care if it's keto cake. Yeah, just had cake for lunch. Give me a break.
It's like all of these restaurants, coming with their impossible meat substitutes. It's still fast food.
Yeah, I'm finishing up my article now, which is called eating the Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat Burger is like having sex with a blow-up doll. And I'm sure that will get me some hate mail, but that's okay. Like, if you're going to do it, do one of the bean, like a black bean burger. There are options out there that work right now, but you always, whenever you look at food, the truth is paleo, keto, all these things are not hard. They're only hard because you're trying to find ways to cheat a system. That's the only thing hard about it. Like, how can I cheat it? How can I cheat it? How can I cheat it?
How can I go back to my bad habits while adhering to this template? And if we spend that much time trying to circumvent the system as it is actually not eating like an idiot, there wouldn't be this much confusion.
The key is really what is your purpose, and can you lead with enthusiasm? Can you get excited to be like, what can I have that's not just boring chicken and broccoli? Or what can I do that could be a fun replacement for the foods that I really like? And you can do them in a healthy way, very easy, if your approach is really good. I love the analogy of brushing your teeth. That if I woke up and I was sitting here going, oh my God, every day I got to walk into my kitchen, and then I need to pull this stick out, and then I need to put it underwater, and then I need to put this paste on it, and then I need to put it on my first tooth, and then my second tooth, and then my third tooth. If you walk through it like that and you think about the process so much, you can make it overwhelming and stressful and crazy. That's just brushing your teeth. Once it becomes an unconscious habit, it's just like brushing your teeth. You don't even think about it. It just becomes part of who you are.
And even more important, on that analogy is that how many times have you laid down and then you're like super busy and you lay down and it's like, oh, fuck, I forgot to brush my teeth.
Exactly.
And then you get up, you go brush your teeth, and now you can continue with your day and you can finish your day and go to sleep. Imagine if every single habit was as annoying as not having brushed your teeth before you go to bed. And you're like, oh crap, I need to go eat my paleo meal. And anything outside of that feels like you are not done.
So I tell people it takes strong emotion to combat strong temptation. So you need to look at some of these foods as what they are, which is poverty food. And I'm not making fun of people in poverty. I'm making a strong relation to the same thing that people in poverty make to poverty, is that poverty sucks. And all of those foods came about due to poverty in nature, right? When we stopped being hunter-gatherers, the only reason we started anything agricultural was because of scarcity and poverty in nature. We started building homes, and we aren't chasing down these animals anymore, and we had a scarcity issue. So all these things solved the poverty epidemic that we had as a species. That, congratulations, we're not poor, we're overly abundant. It is so easy living in this country of ours right now to eat healthy. You can go to Walmart and get these things now, and it's so much cheaper than fast food. You can do the thing. If you do this, if you actually put a little bit of time and effort, for about $2, you can eat about anything you want that's healthy and easy and quick, and you can find the alternatives. You just have to make the choice. And if you look at these things that normally like, oh, croissants, for example, somebody's like, oh my God, that's my X factor. If you can look at a croissant, not as, oh, the marketing of the croissant, but like, what does a croissant actually do to me when I eat it? And you go, oh, that piece of crap poverty food that's going to make me sick and fat and inflamed and feel like garbage. Like, you have to create that neuroassociation with that food, like almost of rage. So you just have zero interest in it anymore. And I'm at a point, I'll look at that stuff and I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. Why would I want to feel like crap? Not, oh, that's so tempting. And that's not a hard process.
And that's what happens when you do like an elimination diet and, you do it right. And then after 30 days, you go back to your old habits and now you have a tummy ache. And pretty quickly we identify what is affecting us. And it's funny because, like going to PaleoFX or going to a conference and hanging out with your friends, and, one of your friends is eating, a voodoo donut now that they're open in Austin. You're like, whoa, I would never touch that. But like I'm Mexican, I can eat corn and beans like nobody's business, and some other people can't. And they look at me like, oh, you're crazy eating corn, But it depends on the person, and it depends on, everyone's ancestry and experience and how it affects each one of us individually.
Absolutely. There's biochemical individuality, there's social individuality, and then there's also the idea of Red Fox, a comedian, says health nuts are going to feel really stupid one day, lying in hospital beds, dying of nothing. And you have to remember that the whole purpose you're doing all this for is improved quality of life. So the only thing worse than eating that donut is treating yourself like you just did heroin for a week and then murdered, shot up a room. Like, it's okay. Find your balance, whatever the balance means for you. And, don't use words like moderation, because that's just justification for your current poor behaviors. But have a little bit of balance in your life is totally, totally cool, in a way that you're doing all this for the right purpose, which is an improved quality of life.
So what are some types of protein that you recommend or that you have studied for vegan friends?
So for my vegan friends, I'm a big fan of hemp, quinoa, pea, sacha ichi. There are some really cool protein sources out there that you can get right now. The biggest issue that you all deal with, and I think a lot of you are in denial because you really, really, really love the vegan lifestyle, and so you're afraid to admit that these proteins taste like dirt. They're awful. I've had so many people in the 15 years I've been doing this say, no, this is a really good protein out here, this vegan one. You got to try it. It's delicious. They'll hand it to me. I'm like, I literally feel like I just licked my garden. And no, thank you. So we are working for almost 2 years now to solve that problem for you. So we will have that very soon. And I got to say, as far as the sheer quality goes, I do love the fact that pea protein, not only is it smooth, but it is very good for anybody who's got digestive issues and inflammation issues. They do really well with pea as a protein source. Hemp is fantastic. Pretty much everything about hemp from start to finish is there aren't many plants that you hear having so many incredible uses where it can not only feed you, clothe you, but it can get you anti-inflamed and high at the same time from one plant. That's pretty amazing. So, right? It makes you feel lazy. You're like, wow, look what this one plant can do. So there are some good things with that, but you have to deal with the granularness. So at the end of the day, there are some good sources out there. And the beautiful thing is there are a lot of companies out there collaboratively. I'm talking ingredient suppliers, not manufacturers, who are looking for harvesting the best stuff on earth and are doing a great job with it.
And how would you triage someone about what protein they should pick or they should, would you start with whey or where would you start? When do you add collagen? Should anyone be on just a collagen protein? How would you triage that?
Great question. The first and foremost thing, I would look at a highest quality whey like what we utilize. It doesn't have to be ours, but make sure it's not a byproduct of cheese manufacturer and that it's year-round grass-fed. And that would leave you with only a few ever. Most of them are medical. Start there foundationally. Make sure that you can process, utilize, digest it really well, that it doesn't create problems for you. And if it doesn't create problems for you, you're good to go. After that, the next thing I would look at is if you aren't a vegan, I would move on to egg. Egg protein is fantastic in many ways. I would make sure you get eggs. Just remember, eggs, avocados, all those things are great all the way down for the womb and having babies. And if you think in terms of how that stuff works, Mother Nature set those things up in those shapes for a very important reason. And that's when we're at our most fragile. And it works its way up all the way into the bodybuilding community really well. Just remember, Rocky used to eat the raw eggs back in the day. I still do sometimes. I think it's great, as long as the quality is good. And then from there, collagen I would utilize for the purpose that it has, not for the muscle building benefits, not as your main protein source ever in your diet. So the people who are doing 2 collagen shakes a day and then going pretty much plant-based the rest of the time are really missing the boat. And I would be really weary of some of these beef-sourced proteins that are on the market because there's a lot of marketing garbage out there. And honestly, my opinion on most of it is this. You're not really getting the beef protein. You're basically getting collagen with the label beef or chicken or whatever on there if you break down the amino acid profile. And at the end of the day, sorry, I'm going to sit down and have a beautiful filet mignon versus drink a beef protein shake. Not like, oh my God, we got beef into a protein shake. I'm like, yeah, I just got beef at Fleming's and it was dope and it tasted delicious. So you don't really need to utilize that for its benefits, and you won't be getting the immune benefits that you'd be getting in a grass-fed way anyway.
In your experience, someone that has maybe like an autoimmune problem, maybe they're trying to avoid dairy and eggs, would you consider like a pea protein? Or
I would start with pea, absolutely.
And hemp?
I'd start with pea, hemp, or chia. What we're putting together is pea, hemp, and chia for that exact reason. That's the mix that we're utilizing for that reason, because all 3 of them work well in different purposes. And most importantly, I think it's essential that it hits the spot. All of those work very well if you're going to be utilizing a shake. And pea for the immune benefits. I would do pea over rice any day personally.
And it's interesting because, I am writing a little bit on, I'm going to publish something on amino acid profiles of different proteins. And it's very, very surprising. And it's funny because, like, for example, whenever someone looks at brown liquor that was made from wheat, okay, this brown liquor that was made from wheat is 98% ethanol, and very little of that is going to be other constituents within the wheat plant. None of them are going to be a protein unless you have an unfiltered type of liquor which are available, but you usually don't chew whiskey. So whiskey is pretty much, or vodka, even if it's made from a grain, it doesn't have any proteins. So even if you are celiac, you are very unlikely to react from it. Now, when you were talking about proteins like whey, like egg protein, all of these different types of proteins. Well, yeah, so if you don't have lactase, or if these proteins are pasteurized or heated, they change in shape, and now we're not going to be able to tolerate them. So now what you're talking about is almost like a raw whey protein that is going to be less inflammatory than a regular whey protein. And then when it comes to things like eggs, are you guys using like whole eggs, or is it just the egg whites, or what's the product coming from?
So for the whey, we actually add in the lactase enzyme since day one.
Wow.
So we put extra lactase enzyme in there. The intricacy and thoughtfulness of those things that we had done are exactly for those reasons, and that's part of why, right? A big problem back in the day, the milkman used to deliver the milk to your door, and it was raw dairy, right? It wasn't pasteurized dairy, and it had the lactase enzyme in there, and you didn't hear all these stories back in the day of everybody having all these milk problems, or else it would have never become a national hit, so to speak, back in the day anyway. It would have been known, because this is pre-big business and big pharma and big, right? It just wouldn't have been the household product that it was pre-pasteurization. And on the egg side, the whole egg.
Wow, so it's egg yolk and egg white.
Right.
Wow, that's awesome. I because I imagine that you can pack more protein if you're just using the white, and now you can make claims because the yolk has other very important things like choline and vitamins.
Choline, that's why we're doing it. Yes. Let me be clear as a manufacturer right here. I have fed my stuff to my own 2 children since they were 8 months old. Now, if you aren't willing to put a product together that you will feed your own little babies, then you're probably looking at margins and markup on costs a little bit more than somebody like me. So there is nothing magical that happens at the age of 18 where all of a sudden all this chemical crap becomes okay for you. Like, oh, you're an adult, right? You can go to war, you can shoot a gun, and you can drink artificial ingredients and all of these other things. Like, oh, it's fine on adults. Kids and adults straight through. High quality nutrients. The only difference between a child and an adult, in my opinion, is excuses, excuses, and excuses. All 3 of those things.
And so you're using whole eggs. That's very, very interesting. And then what percentage of collagen is within that egg protein, do you know?
So we are still in finalizing the formulation, because here's the thing that is so important to me is that we do that while making sure what we're giving you don't have to do this for the sulfur. You want to drink this product and go, holy crap, it's good. There's one other product I've seen on the market that after we were about a year in formulation, I saw come out that does an egg collagen combo. And I swear to God, I would rather drink Drano. When we did our group testing of it, I literally spit it out. And so did the 10 other people in there when they tried it. And it's a very hot seller. And I think what happens is that's why we use kids from the beginning. Half my demo group is always children, because I think that the friends or whatever or somebody around is so wanting to see the success of the product that they will sit there and go, this is great. Like, there's no way. It's like showing up to somebody's housewarming party and their house looks like a trash or a dumpster, and you're like, oh, everything looks nice. I really love the table you bought, Jim. Like, you're not going to say the bad stuff to your friends. Like, hey, is this good? Hey, is this good? I've been working on this for 3 years. I got divorced over it. Put it to market. What do you think? They're going to be like, that's great. But a little kid's going to be like, this is gross. So I went through 9 formulations already on this blend to make sure that this thing is right. And it's not going to be in your hands until we can go, holy crap, this tastes like I'm cheating on my diet.
Yeah, it's different levels of friendship. You have your people that, that you don't know, and they'll be kind of honest. And then you have your friends, maybe acquaintances that like you. You're a likable guy. We see you at PaleoFX. We see each other at the Ancestral Health Symposium. And we're going to be like, yeah, okay, this is pretty good. And then you're the people that love you and the people that really, are not afraid of hurting your feelings. And those are the people that you want. When I was starting my podcast, I wasn't going to send it to, the people that follow me on social media. I showed it to people that love me, that were not scared to tell me, you suck. And that's the people that you need, in anything, whether you're writing a book, whether you're creating a new product, whether you're just, practicing your presentation. That's the people that you want to test with.
So I did a funny case study on that that I think you'll get a kick out of when I wrote my first article for a major fitness publication. Is I took my friend list and I 50-50'd the list. Half the people, I sent them the article, and I put it both on a Word document, and I said, hey, I read this really cool article in Men's Health. What do you think? The other half, I said, hey, I wrote this article. What do you think? That was the only difference. The ones I said, hey, I wrote this article, what you think? They start spell checking it. They start looking for things like that, grammar errors. The ones who I said, hey, I read this article in Men's Health, didn't tell them I was part of it, what do you think? They all were talking about the topics and debating it and going back and forth and stuff. It's a very funny thing when it comes to your friends. And I think it all comes down to where did they first meet you and how bad do they want you to succeed? And at the end of the day, it's going to take people who are either family or extended family who are going to really smack you between the eyes with the truth.
I really took that lesson, because sometimes, the people that want you to see you succeed, you fart and they'll clap for you. Yay, you did it,
Exactly.
But it takes
it smells great.
It smells great. Did you just have some egg protein?
Egg protein, exactly. If you don't want to date, just only eat eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, and but finding that group of people that are really going to be critical because they love you, that's when you're like, okay, this is my group of people. So where can people find you? How can people get a hold of you? Where can they find your products?
Okay, well, the best way to get our products, first off, is fit365.com, or you go to Amazon, and that's amazon.com. You just put in a /fit365. Check it all out there. Reach out to us directly with any kind of questions. And to follow me, just either go to the @fit365 or @realkylebrown on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Dude, so awesome. Maybe when you launch the egg protein, maybe we can do some like a Facebook Live or something like that, just to, for people that are interested, because this is a fascinating thing. I think it's very important to have good levels of protein that is digestible. There's a lot of nonsense out there within the community, because you can go to your big box store and buy a gallon of powder protein for $20, and then you're like, how come this protein costs $80 when I can get it at X store for $25 for double? Maybe we need to get into that right now.
Oh, I'll hit it right now, and I'll say it this way. At the end of the day, you get what you pay for in most cases. And I'm going to tell you this much from behind the scenes. When we formulated what we put together, and ours is so much more than a protein shake. We've got 17 of the best ingredients from around the world, mixing it up to a complete meal in a shake. When I put this together, I said, I'll just give you the organic cacao, for example, if you want a little behind the scenes. So in our chocolate, I was like, okay, I want chocolate. And I said, I want to use organic cacao. And they were saying, no, don't. It can change taste all the time. Just use cocoa processed with alkali, which you probably see in your protein shakes right now for most listeners. And I said, no, I want raw organic cacao. And then I spent 3 months looking between 1,000 different types of raw organic cacao, studying after I'd quit my job full time, just that one ingredient, to say what is the highest antioxidant, most healing antioxidant cacao that I can find with the second variable of the best taste when mixed in with everything else. So I had to have both things mixed and matched until I hit it on the head. So, of course, when you take that approach, it's going to be an investment. And I will tell you, my manufacturing cost is about 3x the retail price of a lot of these products. And I have had a lot of the biggest brands you will find out there come out and say, hey, My protein shake with sucralose or different other ingredients is outlawed in Europe or in a few other countries. Can we private label yours and bring it out there? And I had multi-million-dollar deals on the table that were brought to me many times in my 15 years in this business. And first off, I'll say, why would it be legal in the US and illegal in Europe? Think about that one. And second thing I'm going to say is the price they wanted was 50% of my manufacturing cost as their distributor costs, which means that their stuff is so inexpensive to make for two reasons. One is volume, but two is definitely the ingredient quality. So you get what you pay for.
Wow. Yeah. And that is so important, as with everything. It's funny, like I'm just personally, I react to whey protein. I'm going to go buy some Fit 365 and test it, see how I react. I usually break out, which is not a very good, it's not a very good sign. It doesn't hurt me, but like I get like a zit or something. I want to try yours and see.
So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to send some out to you. And then if you get some zits, then I want you to go try to buy some beer and see if you get carded. It's worth a test. I'll send someone out to you. You can give it a shot. And then once we get our egg collagen mix out, our bone broth egg collagen mix out, we'll do a giveaway for your listeners.
Awesome. Yeah, no, definitely, man. Thank you so much for your time. And dude, it was so awesome, connecting with you again. And I can't wait to hang out again, man. Next time I'm in San Diego, I'll hit you up.
Game on. I'm super excited. And thank you for having me on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you have questions, just reach out to me at Real Kyle Brown. Here to help.
Awesome, dude. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Take care, brother.